Okay, so in this video I'm going to be talking about my top 25 favourite films from 1999. These are all in accordance with the release dates from IMDb, and again, this is just a subjective list. These are just my top personal favourite 25 films from this year. There's no right or wrong. These are just the 25 films that I enjoyed the most. So, that being said, I'm going to get straight in with some honourable mentions. Not too many this time, just only got a few. So first honourable mention for me is Ride with the Devil. Hadn't heard of this film until I saw Brian Lomax's top films from 1999 that he did. And I thought I'd give this one a check out. And I did really, really enjoy it. Just didn't quite make the list for me, but it's still a really, really good Ang Lee film. Most people will probably think I'm crazy doing this one next, but it's, for me, Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Not a great movie by any means. It's a bad movie with some good moments in it. Jar Jar Binks is probably the worst thing to hit cinema ever, in my opinion. But the film itself, I've got a lot of nostalgia for it. Grew up watching it. I went to see it at the cinema 2 years after seeing the special editions when they came out. But yeah, as I said, not for everyone. Not a good Star Wars film, but I've just got a lot of nostalgia for it. Next honourable mention for me is American Movie. This is a great documentary about making a film with some really, really quotable dialogue in it. I saw this on Cinemassacre's top list of his 50 favourite films of all time, so I thought I'd give this one a look, and it was definitely worth it. It was just so funny. Next honourable mention for me is David Lynch's The Straight Story. Just really enjoyed it. Thought it was just a little fun, little harmless film. Next honourable mention for me is The Limey with Terence Stamp. Terence Stamp's just absolutely terrifying in this film. He sort of plays this gangster out for revenge for his daughter. Got Peter Fonda in there as well. I just thought it was a really good, underrated sort of gangster movie. Next honourable mention for me is The Virgin Suicides, probably Sofia Coppola's best film in my opinion. Next honourable mention is Audition. This is such a creepy movie with some just absolutely horrific imagery, but I absolutely love it and thought it was really good. Probably my favourite Denzel Washington film, that is The Hurricane. Just didn't quite make the list for me, but it's such a great performance by him. Next up, Three Kings, David O. Russell. Yeah, just a great film, great chemistry between Ice Cube, George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg. 10 Things I Hate About You, just a really, really great fun teen movie. One of the last ones to come out in the 90s, but great cast and just a ton of fun. Notting Hill, I hated this film the first time I saw it, but it just grew on me more and more. I just think him and Julia Roberts Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts, have just a great time together on screen, and I just really, really enjoyed it the more and more I watched it over time. A bit of a guilty pleasure, The Mummy, Brendan Fraser. Yeah, this movie's silly, but it's so much fun. Cruel Intentions, another great sort of teen drama movie that was just really, really fun. A bit dark in places, but I still really enjoyed it. My last honourable mention from 99 is the second Austin Powers film, The Spy Who Shagged Me. I just think it's funnier than the first. Introduced us to Mini-Me. But yeah, it's just so silly and funny. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to get straight in now to the main list. Kick it off with number 25. And that for me is The Blair Witch Project. Some people will either hate or love this movie. I can completely understand both sides to the coin of that. But for me, I just think it's quite creepy for what it does. I know it's this found footage movie, and we did actually find out eventually that it's all fake and not real. The ending to me, which I won't spoil, I knew what it was, but I didn't understand the context behind it or what the meaning to it was. I then found that out, and it just made it so much more creepier. I won't dare spoil it if you've not seen it, but it just really unsettled me, and I just think it's great when a horror film can do that. So yeah, that's number 25 for me. Number 24 for me is Jim Jarmusch's Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai. Don't be put off by the title. It is a bit of a silly title, but the film itself is just absolutely great. With Forrest Whitaker, sort of this Leon type of film with a Leon type of role. If you've seen Leon, just about this hitman. It was just an absolutely fantastic, well-made film, and it's just so underrated. Can't say much more about it. Go check it out if you've not seen it. Just absolutely great. Next for me at number 23 is Office Space. Not a film I'm a big fan of, but it grows on me the more and more I watch it. From Mike Judge. Just thought this was... It's really funny. The humour of it settles more in, I think, because first time I saw it, I was quite young, so when you get into it and you've worked in the office environment, you sort of appreciate the humour more. But yeah, I can't say much more about it than that. It's a great funny film. Check it out if you've not seen it. Next for me, at number 22, is Being John Malkovich. This is just such a weird, creepy film, but I absolutely really dig what the movie does. Stars John Cusack, who plays this sort of puppeteer, but he stumbles across this little room and it leads to a tunnel where it puts you in the mind of John Malkovich for a couple of minutes, and then it just throws you out on the side of the road. It's absolutely insane, but the movie's just so riveting and just keeps you engaged the entire time, and I just think it's so strange, but it works so well. Coming up next for me at number 21 is Girl Interrupted, with Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie. This was the film that sort of was to restart Winona Ryder's career, but it sort of was the platform for Angelina Jolie's. It's sort of like a female version of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Really strange, but I really enjoyed it. Thought it was absolutely great. Just check it out if you've not seen it. Coming up next for me at number 20, is Detroit Rock City. I absolutely love those type of movies where a group of people are trying to get somewhere, but everything sort of gets in the way. Sort of follows these four Kiss fans that want to go and see Kiss in concert, but sort of everything, as I said, get in the way to try and stop them from doing it. It's got Eddie Furlong in it as well from American History X and Terminator 2. But it's just that type of fun movie. As I said, I'm sounding like a broken record, where you're trying to get somewhere and accomplish something, but everything gets in the way. The main actor in this, his mum, is just so hilarious in this. She just absolutely hates Kiss. She's part of this group that refer to them as the Knights in Satan's Service. But it's just a ton of fun, and I massively enjoyed it. So coming up next for me, number 19, is The Boondock Saints. This was just such a great action movie, which I just wasn't expecting to be as good as it was. Willem Dafoe in this is just absolutely insane as this detective. But by the end of it, I was just like blown away by what levels he would go to. It was just so crazy. But when is Willem Dafoe not crazy in a movie? Just absolutely great. Just a fun action movie. I'm really surprised to see Ron Jeremy in this as well, the porn star. Given like a sort of straight acting performance. But as I said, it's a gangster movie I really enjoy. So, coming up next for me at number 18 is October Sky with Laura Dern and Jake Gyllenhaal. This was just a great drama film I really enjoyed, about a group of students who want to sort of work for NASA and become rocket scientists, and it's just the early years and adolescence that they go through. One of my favourite scenes in this is probably when they're taking they're taking some track off a railway road that's been abandoned, and they're like, "Are you sure this railroad's been abandoned?" It's like, "Oh yeah, train's not been along here for years." And then, as they're sort of taking the tracks up, a train comes towards them, and it just leads to just such a great tense scene that I just really, really enjoyed, and thought this was just a ton of fun, a great little drama film, well worth checking out. So, at number 17 for me is Election. This is just another great high school movie I really enjoy, with a great cast. You've got Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick in this sort of go head-to-head for this election that takes place at this school. I just thought it was absolutely great and entertaining, and I just really, really enjoyed the ending to this film, which I won't spoil. But yeah, I just thought this movie was a ton of fun, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Coming up next for me at number 16, one of the greatest animated films probably ever made, in my opinion, and that is The Iron Giant. Just such a heartwarming, great story, and fantastically animated film by Warner Brothers. Thought this was just absolutely superb. Great friendship movie as well, about this Iron Giant and this kid that sort of befriends him. Great setting as well. Just absolutely fantastic. We just really love the Iron Giant when you watch this film, and by the end, what you find out what his purpose was, and who he can be. It's just absolutely fantastic. You could be built for something, but you could be totally made for something else. It was just such a great message and a great, fantastic animated film. So, coming up next for me, at number 15, is Galaxy Quest. Probably the greatest Star Trek movie ever made that's got nothing to do with Star Trek. But the premise to this is so great and so clever. It's basically this sci-fi TV show is being celebrated at this Comic-Con-esque event. And all the cast are there signing autographs, and the characters are just so great. But what actually is happening is somewhere in space, there's this race of aliens that are being sort of bullied and taken over and wiped out by this other race. And they end up seeing the TV show and thinking it's real, and they're like, "Oh, they're going to save us. Let's go and recruit them." And obviously they're not. They're all a bunch of actors. But as I said, it's got a great cast: Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, the late great Alan Rickman, Sam Rockwell, and Justin Long as well. Just a great fun little sci-fi movie I absolutely enjoy. So coming up next for me, at number 14, is Stanley Kubrick's last film, Eyes Wide Shut. This was just such a strange film that I absolutely enjoyed. I know a lot of film critics hate it. Probably a lot of people who watch it hate it, but I was just so engaged by it. It's probably one of my favourite Tom Cruise movies, starring alongside Nicole Kidman as well, who I believe they were married at the time. It was just so strange, and I can't really say much more than that about it, because I think to talk about it would be to spoil the experience. Probably the standout scene to me is when Tom Cruise ends up going to this big mansion, and the things that go on there are just so strange and surreal, all the sort of nudity and orgies and things. But as I said, it's a film I think's well made, and yeah, it was just a shame that it was Stanley Kubrick's last film. But yeah, it's just so great and is definitely worth a watch. So, coming up next for me, number 13 is the film that won Best Actress this year, and that is Boys Don't Cry with Hilary Swank. Yeah, just a film that probably is more relevant today than ever about gender identity. Really, really disturbing film, this one. I can't really say much more than that because it would ruin the experience if you've not seen it. It's a very, very powerful film. Fabulous acting in it, though. The acting in it is just so great, and you just absolutely despise the antagonists by the end of this film. They're just horrible garbage people. But it's such a well-made film, and I wouldn't say it's enjoyable, but it is fantastic. It's It's a proper movie, proper film, this one. Just check it out if you've not seen it. Next for me at number 12 is Michael Mann's The Insider. Just great powerhouse thriller. For me, this movie with performances from Al Pacino, Russell Crowe, just a great drama film that I really, really enjoyed. Thought it was so good, so great, just absolutely fantastic. So coming up next for me at number 11 is probably a film most people would have probably in their top 3 this year, but for me, it's Fight Club. It's a great film by no means. There were just a lot more films that I loved more than this. Great performances from Edward Norton, Helena Bonham Carter, Brad Pitt, just absolutely fantastic. Is Edward Norton meets Brad Pitt and sort of teaches him a little bit about the soap business and how they sort of break into hospitals to steal fat to make soap. And then they eventually start a club which random guys just meet up and beat the shit out of each other in this secret club, which has very specific rules. The first two obviously being you don't talk about Fight Club, which I've just broke. But yeah, it's just a fantastic, great movie. Not everyone's cup of tea, but it's just so strange and so well made, and has a fantastic twist ending as well, which I won't dare spoil. But yeah, it's just super great. Next for me, breaking into the top 10 now. Number 10 for me is The Matrix. Another film that probably most people will have in their top 5, top 3 movies from this year, probably number 1. The special effects in this were just absolutely groundbreaking. Bit of a complex story to follow, sort of. I can't really explain it, but it's just one of those films I keep coming back to every few years or so just to enjoy. The action in it is just absolutely superb. Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Keanu Reeves. Just a great sci-fi action movie. It's hailed as one of the best, and I can completely see why. Hugo Weaving is the villain in this as well. Just on point. Absolutely great. The sequels as well. I don't actually mind the sequels either. Nowhere near as good as the first, obviously. But they get crapped on quite a bit, the sequels, and I still find enjoyment in them, to be fair. So, at number 9 for me is P.T. Anderson's Magnolia. I absolutely fell in love with his previous film, Boogie Nights, my favourite of 1997. This one won me over as well. It's so good. Not much of a plot to it, but the driving force of this film are its characters. John C. Reilly, Tom Cruise. Just so good. It's got a very interesting opening scene as well about an event that takes place in this sort of apartment block with about a suicide that goes wrong, about as wrong as it could go. But yeah, for me, it's the characters that make the driving force of this film. Great surreal moment as well at the end when it just starts to rain frogs. It just is completely out of nowhere with the film, but still fits in organically with it. I can't praise this enough. Really long runtime, but as I said, it's the characters in the movie that are the driving force and do make it. So, at number 8 for me is Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. Yeah, I absolutely enjoy this film. It's just so dark looking, and the blood used in the film is just so vibrant. I just really dig it. I dig the cast in this film so well as well. Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, Richard Griffiths, Christopher Lee's in there as well, Christopher Walken. Just a superb, grim horror movie with some absolute beautiful visuals in it as well. It's one of my favourite Tim Burton films and one of his most underrated in my opinion. Obviously, it's the classic tale of the Headless Horseman. You've got Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane. Pretty much Tim Burton's right-hand man. before, unfortunately. I think this was their last great film. Sort of, well, no, Sweeney Todd's pretty good, but that was like one out of a bad bunch, to say a few, which was probably what's considered for their later films to be not that great, like Dark Shadows and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But for me, this one's one of their best. It's not as good as Edward Scissorhands or Ed Wood for me, but I still massively, massively enjoy it. I love the kill scenes in it. They're just so creative and so great. It's everything you'd expect from a Tim Burton film and a Tim Burton adaptation of Sleepy Hollow. Just so good. Can't recommend it enough. So, at number 7 for me is Jim Carrey in Man on the Moon. Biopic of sort of Andy Kaufman, the sort of comedian that was a bit understood, controversial, struck me as a very sort of Marmite character. You either loved him or you hated him. I saw the documentary on this as well on Netflix with Jim Carrey, and I didn't realise how insufferable Jim Carrey was to a lot of the cast and crew. Because he just really, really tapped into Andy Kaufman and threw himself into this film. It was just so strange to see, but you get fascinating. Yeah, I remember seeing this film on holiday. It was sort of playing in the lobby in this hotel I was staying at, and there was no sound. And I ended up, once I got back home, we were just like, right, we need to rent that film, see what it's like. And I just absolutely loved it and fell in love with it. The cast as well: Courtney Love, Paul Giamatti, Danny DeVito. Just absolutely great. One of the best biopics I've seen. I just hugely, hugely enjoyed it. So, at number 6 for me is South Park. Bigger, longer and uncut. Otherwise, I just call it South Park the movie. I think a lot of people do. But yeah, this movie, to me, seeing it for the first time as an 8-year-old, way too young to see it, it blew my mind. I'd never seen a film like this ever. I just fell in love with it, and it was everything I sort of wanted from a movie at the time. So yeah, this is obviously based on Matt Stone and Trey Parker's TV show South Park. The film sort of bridges season 3 and 4, I think. It just is absolutely fantastic with an absolutely insane plot. Saddam Hussein and the devil are in this homosexual relationship, and they basically plan on taking over the world. And the Kickstarter for that is basically the death of Terrence and Phillip, who are 2 Canadian comedians, which the kids absolutely love, but the parents hate. And the parents basically declare war on Canada, which is where they're from, and it just leads to absolute anarchy. The songs in this film are absolutely great. The humour in it is superb and on point. For as old as an animated film as it is, it still really holds up, in my opinion. It's just absolutely fantastic and so funny. If you're not a fan of South Park, you're probably not going to enjoy the film, but yeah, I just think it's great. So, at number 5 for me is the film that actually won Best Picture and Best Actor for this year for Kevin Spacey, and that is American Beauty. Some people today might say this film doesn't hold up because of all the ugliness that surrounds Kevin Spacey. Yeah, I can completely get on board with that and completely see why. But the film, for me, is still a very beautiful looking film, a very well made film by Sam Mendes. Fabulously acted. Great story, great performances. Particularly by Chris Cooper in this film, who I think is massively underrated. Yeah, it's basically the build up to the death of Kevin Spacey's character Lester, and I think it sort of just captures the last couple of months before he dies, to not get into spoilers. But yeah, I suppose that's a big one. But you're told that from the very, very second beginning few minutes of the film. But the story is just so engaging and so fantastic. I can't really praise this film enough. If you've not seen it, check it out. It does have some very uncomfortable scenes in it, from a certain perspective, given the context of that we all know nowadays. But yeah, I still think it's such a great, great, great film. So at number 4 for me is the first American Pie film. Yeah, I just absolutely adore the first American Pie film. I think it's absolutely great. I really like the sequels to it as well. Probably the best sequel in my opinion is The Reunion. But yeah, touching on the first film, it's basically about four or five guys who basically decide, let's lose our virginity before we leave school, before prom. Make a pact to do that, and yeah, it's the classic teen comedy, but it's got taste to it. It's not vulgar. It's not vile. There are some of those moments there, but that's not what the film's about. It's the characters. Kevin, Jim, Finch, Oz, and Stifler. You just enjoy being in their company, really, and enjoy watching the film. It's just so funny and so great. The film's message is a little bit completely tarnished by the end of the film, where it's like, no, let's not. Losing our virginity should be special. Should be with someone special, and we shouldn't be pressurized into losing it and all that. And they do most of them sort of end up losing it that very night. So they do sort of tarnish the film's message a little bit. But Oz, the character Oz, doesn't. Not to get into spoilers, but if you do notice it, there is a line there which does explain that he doesn't. But yeah, it's just still a fantastic, fantastic movie that I really, really enjoyed. If you're just feeling down, just whack it on. It's just so much fun. At number 3 for me is probably M. Night Shyamalan's best film, and it's his first film, The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis. This film just gets creepier and creepier each time I watch it. It's just absolutely fantastic. For me, what's a real shame about this film is the film's twist is probably more famous than the film itself, and it just overshadows the quality and the rest of the film. It's just fantastically acted, fantastically shot. It's basically about a small boy who is seeing a doctor played by Bruce Willis, and he basically has this ability to communicate and see the dead. What's so creepy about this film is the scenes with the ghosts themselves. The movie's just peppered with absolute terrifying scenes where these ghosts show up, and it scares me shitless. It's just absolutely creepy as hell. There's a scene that takes place at a school where he just sees these hanging bodies. There's a scene with one of the ghosts is like, come on, I'll show you where my dad keeps his shotgun. And you see this big hole in the back of his head. The girl who was poisoned as well, that just absolutely terrifies me. There's a scene where he's talking to someone, and his mum calls him over and says, "Oh, did you know there was a fire at this school?" And he says, "I know." And then we see there's someone he was talking to, and their face is all burned. It's just really good, creepy settings and it just uses them so well. It just uses these scenarios just absolutely fantastically to incorporate the child speaking with the ghosts. It's just so good. But I won't dare spoil the ending. If you've not seen it, if you haven't seen it, you probably already know what it is. But just in case, I won't go into it. But it was just such a creepy film that I massively, massively enjoy. So, at number 2 for me is my favourite Pixar film of all time. They've never really topped it in my opinion, though they have come close several times. And that is Toy Story 2. One of the most underrated films to be considered about when people discuss best sequels. I just thought this film had the hardest job to act as a sequel to an already great film, being Toy Story. It was going to come out straight to DVD and not have a theatrical release, but thank God that wasn't the case. Thank God this came out in cinemas. It's absolutely superb. I can't praise it enough. As I said, it's my favourite Pixar film. I've seen them all up to Soul at this point, the time of filming. But this film could have just rehashed the first one. It could have put Buzz Lightyear back in that scenario where he still thinks he's a toy and just repeated the same story again. The film just absolutely doesn't do that and has such a creative, fantastic journey. It's more of a focus on Woody and his backstory, which is just absolutely fascinating, and about this journey to try and get him back when he's been kidnapped. And we actually learn that he's a very valuable collector's item and part of a really big, at the time, television show, which was a massive hit. The film has this absolutely satisfying as hell restoration scene in it, where we sort of see a bit of a battered Woody get fixed up. Introduces some great new characters as well, with Jesse and Bullseye, who doesn't say anything for the entire film, but he's still such a great character. We get to meet Mrs. Potato Head as well. Wheezy, who we all love, just absolutely great. Tragic what happened to that actor, though, who played him. But yeah, it was just... this film does everything a sequel should do, and I just think it's superb. It has an absolutely satisfying and super great climax, which I really enjoyed. A surprise villain in there as well, which you can sort of see coming, but it didn't tarnish the film for me. I just thought it was just a great surprise to the movie. It fit in the movie so well. It didn't feel cheap or it didn't feel unwarranted. It just felt so organic. But for me, it's absolutely superb. My favourite Pixar film of all time. They've never topped this in my opinion. But yeah, one of the greatest sequels ever made. So, my number one pick from 1999, and it's probably most people's number one pick from this year. It's The Green Mile, directed by Frank Darabont and starring Tom Hanks. Fantastic prison movie. For me, it's up there with Shawshank. Same director as well. Not quite as good, but it's very, very close. For me, the cast in this film was just absolutely stellar. Tom Hanks, the late great Michael Clark Duncan as John Coffey. So the premise is basically the settings on this prison ward for people who are on death row to be executed, and they brought in Michael Clark Duncan's John Coffey, who's on death row for murdering two twin girls. And it's the relationship between the prison guards and him and the other prisoners on the ward itself. One of the prison guards, Percy, is just an absolute... I don't want to say the word, but he fits the bill so well. He's just a nasty, horrible bastard, to put it politely. But he's related to the governor, so none of the other prisoners can really treat him bad because they'd lose their jobs otherwise. It's just a horrible situation to be in, and he just treats the prisoners like shit. Yeah, the prisoners aren't stand-up citizens. They're in prison or on death row for a reason. But he just absolutely exploits the hell out of them. Just a horrible character with no absolute values whatsoever. But for me, what pisses me off about this film is there's an actor in this film that nobody ever talks about or gives him props for his performance in this film. and it's a crying shame, and that's Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell never ever gets talked about in this film, and he is superb. He is despicable and horrible and epitomizes the real low life of what it is to be human. And no one ever talks about him in this film. He is so great and he is so superb in this film. It's criminal, just the amount of times I see videos talking about this film, and he never ever gets talked about. It's just such a shame. It winds me up because he's so good in the film and is just so despicable. But yeah, I won't dare spoil the ending to this film either. Whether, we do find out whether John Coffey's guilty or innocent of his crimes. But I won't dare spoil what the ending and the outcome is. It's a very, very tear-jerky scene. It's got a lot of supernatural elements to it as well, this film, which I must admit do take me out of the film a little bit. They're just a bit too far-fetched for a film that is so grounded in reality, in my opinion, but it is what it is, and they do still work in a strange way, in my opinion, but that's really my only flaw with this film. Other than that, it's superb. The execution scenes, some of which are absolutely horrific. The performances by the actors in this film are just absolutely on point and are so good. I forgot James Cromwell's in this as well as the governor. But yeah, it's just such a great film. Got a lengthy run time to it as this film as well. I think it's over 3 hours long, but it's so great and just so fantastic. So I'm going to leave that there. So yeah, those are my top 25 favourite films from 99. A fantastic year to wrap up the 90s with. So many gems and so many fantastic movies churned out from that year. So yeah, I'm going to be back hopefully soon with my top films from 2000 and leave it there. So if you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment if I've missed any films out or anything like that, or leave your lists below. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and stay safe and take care.